At this point in the course, we've learned how to draw graphs to analyze how firms make decisions in three types of competitive environments: perfect competition, monopoly, and oligopoly. But there's a fourth competitive structure that's often featured on the AP test. It's called monopolistic competition. Think back to the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios example from this lecture. Cheerios created a slightly different product that was distinct from the other Cheerios brands, and that let them gain some market power. In this way, Apple Cinnamon Cheerios are kind of like a monopoly. No one else can sell that specific brand. At the same time, Apple Cinnamon Cheerios isn't that different from other cereals. It ends up on the same shelf in the supermarket, along with dozens of other options. In that sense, Apple Cinnamon Cheerios are kind of like a firm in a perfectly competitive environment. Lots of close substitutes, low barriers to entry, and perfect information. So this situation is a hybrid of a monopoly and perfect competition, and the term we use for it is monopolistic competition. Each firm has market power, but all the firms compete with each other for the same customers. What does the situation look like graphically? Let's go back to our cost and revenue graphs from earlier, and let's start with a situation with only one firm, a monopoly. How does a monopolistically competitive firm choose its output? Well, remember that it does have market power. No one else can sell Apple Cinnamon Cheerios. Maybe something similar, but not exactly the same thing. As a monopolist then, the firm will choose output where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. In the short run, it may make an economic profit. You can see that profit here, because the price is above the average cost. But this is the short run. Imagine that Cheerios is making huge profits from its new Apple Cinnamon Cheerio. What would you do if you're a competing cereal company? Well, nothing is stopping you from making your own type of Apple Cinnamon cereal. And if people like it, you may as well try. Over time, more firms will enter to compete, and each firm is competing over the same customers. As these firms enter, Apple Cinnamon Cheerios wins a smaller and smaller portion of the customer base. Therefore, demand for Apple Cinnamon Cheerios falls, and the demand curve shifts down. As a result, the price drops closer and closer to average total cost, so profit falls. In the long run, we end up with this graph. The firm is still like a monopoly, setting quantity at the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. But in the long run, demand has been shifted down far enough that the demand curve for Apple Cinnamon Cheerios is exactly tangent to the average cost curve. The firm is producing on the portion of the average cost curve where average cost is falling. There'll be zero profits, just like in the long run for perfect competition. But because of market power, note one difference from perfect competition. Even though price equals average total cost, we don't end up at the point where average total cost is minimized. In perfect competition, the firm faces a totally elastic demand curve. So marginal revenue is a flat line. Price will go down until it's the bottom of the average cost curve. Here, instead, the demand curve the firm faces is still downward sloping because the firm is still a monopoly. So instead of price equaling the minimum average cost, in the long run, price equals average cost at a point before you hit the bottom of the U shape of the average cost curve. Moreover, what we end up with is a feature called excess capacity. Compared to perfect competition, monopolistically competitive firms produce at a point where quantity is below what would it be if average total costs were minimized. We have zero profits now, since price equals average total cost. Even though profits are zero, we still have a loss of welfare, because the quantity chosen is smaller than the quantity that would be chosen if average costs were minimized. So that's how monopolistic competition works. It's a hybrid. As in perfect competition, in the long run, the firm ends up at a place where price equals average total cost. But as a monopolist, there's excess capacity.